Right, so for that question you had in the test the last day, going from what they gave you, first of all, is your vertical line here. You should be fine with that. This line here comes down at 30 degrees from a horizontal like position here, and this line comes down 30 degrees as well. What you're asked to do is you're asked to draw the given axis with the triangle. So we need to draw the equilateral triangle in here next. You're asked to draw the elevation and plan positioned as they are given, and draw the axonometric projection of the birdhouse. So with that much, you also need to go down and look at your drawing. On your drawing, they tell you that the end of the triangle here is going to be 100 millimeters long, 50 on both sides of the center line. Best way and easiest way to do that is measure out on, if you had done what I have here, measure out 50 on both sides of this line here onto a horizontal line. Alright, once you have that, then set up your side and set squares. You only need to do it on one side realistically. Bring your line down to where it hits the sloped 30-degree line, and then just draw your horizontal line across. Once you have that much, then you could either just project this line out and go perpendicular to it, or you can make it like this. Just use your compass. It's an equilateral triangle, so get your compass, mark off the top there, and you can draw on your plane like that then. Okay, so once you have that done, you have the first part of the question done. Next you do, sorry, now I just need to find a topper for the pencil. Make sure your pencils are sharp for the full lot of these as well. There's no point in having a dull pencil. You're going to lose marks. Right. Once you have this much done, you're going to project out your plane. So the plane I need is the one off to the right. Up here. Now, it's very rare that you're going to need all three planes to be drawn. There's usually enough information in two to draw the object. Okay, so I can project that out. And just bring this one out a little bit further. And then slide and set squares over. And that's just the edge of the plane. Do the same going down. So set it up again. If you're using slide and set squares, always reference it first. Then you can use your set square. Bring it down. Bring that down. Bring the center down. And bring this edge one down as well. And you'll see you need to extend to that as well. Okay. Once you have that done, we will just put in the edge for our plane. Now I think I'm already after doing this too low on this sheet, to be honest, to fit the object, but sure, look, we'll see how it goes. The only thing I would say to you is, as much as the elevation and the plan are asked for, they are also projection, or they are also construction, so they shouldn't actually be as heavy as your final object. I'll draw them in a bit heavier here just so that you'll be able to see them. Other than that, they don't need to be that heavy. Because this is an equilateral triangle, that should be the same. It's not, means that my accuracy has been off somewhere, so I'm just going to put in bisector and make sure this part's right. Okay, and just mark off on the line there. Alright, this one down here should absolutely be dead center. There shouldn't be any question about that. Alright, you swing your semicircle back. Again, they should hopefully be the same. Yeah. There you go. So you have two semicircles there. Just going to move this. You check the computer and so you can see the, yeah. Tilt that more. Right. Once you have that done, then it's drawing in your plane. From the edge to the corner, and So you remember any two lines coming off of a chord to the circumference of a circle will make 90 degrees. That will probably come up as a short question somewhere along the line, but it's your pre's or your exams. So you're plane here and you've your plane here. I'm going to start drawing the object next. I'm actually going to start with the plan. Nice, quick and easy to do. So first of all, if you measure out 70, measure out 70 millimeters. So just mark that off there. And then use your side and set squares to bring out the other edge. Now, as I said to you already, I've gotten a little bit off of the sheet. It's actually fine for just a home test. What you could do if this happened to you in the exam is, I'll just tilt that back so you can see, pull out another sheet underneath it, tape them together, and then just keep going with your question. So, let's tape it off. Okay. We'll go this way. Yeah. Now, I've actually come out from the end of this point here. I haven't measured. You need to go back there for a second. So they're saying on the drawing I have to go out 10 mil, 22 mil from there, another 22 millimeters, and 10 mil. So this is actually where that line should be. I was getting ahead of myself. All right. Here, over to the edge. Bring that down. See if you have enough room to just keep your side and set squares like this. I do just about. No, move my sheet. Okay. So you can see I've just gone off the page a little bit there. Just by extending the paper, it'll be fine. Also, if you had the A2 paper, this wouldn't happen at all. Right, next thing you need to do is you need to bring along those measurements. So they've told you that the first one is going to be hidden detail, because it's the ground line of the object. You can't see that over the side edge. The middle one is a solid line. That's the top ridge of the birdhouse. And then the next one, going along like that. Okay. We go up to our elevation up here. I'm going to draw this in. Now, so looking at the information here, so we already have our total width from down here. And what I can do is I can just grab my compass and just copy these. Could be faster than measuring them out. So mark off 10. Mark off 22, 32 rather. $54. And the last 10 millimeters there. Okay. So we have that much. Now you can see where my accuracy's gone off a little bit. In the drawing that they gave you down here on this corner, this edge is 70. In the drawing they gave you, the 70 doesn't actually come past the plane. So just my accuracy's been off there somewhere. Actually do small marks for something that's that small detailed. Okay. So going on from there, we can bring these lines up. So the very, very outer lines are going to come up and the center line is going to go up. So that center line is going to go all the way up. Outer lines, I'll bring it up about that much because it's going to hit on this line anyway. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to mark off my heights for in here. Okay. So if I just go along here, they've said 22 millimeters up is where the center radius is for the 18 mils. So I can just mark that off. They've said if I go up 45 millimeters is where this part ends. And they've said if I go up another 30, so about 45 and that, 75. This point here, that's where the top of the birdhouse is going to be. So, slide and set squares again. I can just mark off that point in the other line. Just make sure that this is centered. Okay. And connecting the dots. Again, I'm doing mine a lot heavier than you would be doing yours. on paper because the camera won't pick up the light lines otherwise. Okay, so we have that much done. Set your compass to 18 millimeters now while you're up here. And swing in that opening for the birdhouse there. Okay. Before you go away from this drawing, I'm going to tell you to do one last thing. I'm going to tell you to break this down into your 30 and 60. That just means that you won't have to come back up to this drawing later to finish off your detail. So what we're going to do is, I'll try not to knock over the coffee. Set your squares up. And even being perfectly honest, if you want to be a little bit faster than you usually are for this, all you need to do is just mark 1. Because if you mark 1 like that, one segment, you can get your compass. You can get your compass in on top of it and just copy that down here. Copy it to here, here. And even if you wanted to here. Or I could bring that line straight across. Must be a little bit more accurate. Yeah. Alright. You only need to do the bottom half of this. The reason you only need to do the bottom half is that this point up here, if I was to split, let's say 30 degrees along, that 30 degrees and this 30 degrees are going to be at the same distance from the center. So I only need to mark out the bottom ones. It's just when I'm measuring these out later, I'll need to remember that there's also counting for the top. All I'm doing here is just reducing down to the lines that I'll be looking for. All right, what you can do then is you can just measure this vertically up and just mark it off then for when you're doing your other bits of drawing later. Or you could just do your 30-60, whichever suits you. Okay, so I have all those marked off. Last thing I'm going to do while I'm up here is I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do not do this in pen. 7, 8. The only reason I'm doing it in pen is just so that you can see it. Now, each of those numbers corresponds to a point. That's going to be for when I bring this in later. Now, with this, I'm going to bring down each of these points to the ground. So I'm going to bring down my 5. I'm going to bring down the 4 and the 2. And I'm going to bring down the 3. Do the same on the other side. Bring down the 7 and the 11. Bring down the 10 and the 8. And bring down the 9. Now, what you can do in this question, so there's 2 ways of doing this circle out here into the axonometric. One is going to be the way that I'm going to do it. I've brought these points down to the ground. I'm going to bring them across the ground line of the plane. And I'm going to bring them back up in height to where they'll hit here. Okay? Because what I'm going to have is I'm going to have a front plane, so I'm going to be able to bring all these points into the front of the birdhouse and bring them up the front face. If you didn't have the front face, you'd take these distances here, you'd apply them to your plan, you'd fill it in, and just where the distances are, you'd be doing it on the other face, which you can't see on the camera at the moment, and you'll be projecting them up from there. Okay. Now, with the axonometrics, I like to work up in layers. So I'm going to bring in the ground first. I'm going to bring in the main body of the house. And then I'm going to bring in the rest of the smaller detail. Right. Now, so bring up the ground first. See where it hits there. The ground to see where it hits. Okay. And I'm going to bring up one of these points. And there's a reason I only need to bring up one. That's because if I bring this in along, so I have that point there. This front plane, at the back of the bird box rather, and the front of the bird box should be parallel because it's a square or rectangular object with square edges. So I'd have this here. Because even if you look, this edge here is parallel to that edge. Okay. So that's that ground edge there now. I'm bringing it down just a little more central. Okay. I'm going to bring in these points next. Now, a little thing as well I was shown years ago by my own teacher. All of these lines that you're bringing in, put arrows on them. That's for a few reasons. It shows the examiner that you understand where your lines are going and why they're projecting that way. So let's say, for example, this line went this way. This line also originally went this way. And so did this one. It shows the examiner that you understood what lines were doing, what each line was doing. And it also just shows off. Let's say, for you, if you were doing a question, you'd bring something from, if you'd find something in one of the views and bring that back into the plan, it just shows that you knew what you're on about, realistically. Okay. Same thing again. I only need to bring up 3 of the points. I'll bring up the back point. This is from the corner edge. Bring up this point. And I find it's easier to keep an eye and stop where you're meant to stop. For at least one of them, it just shows the end of where that point is going to be then. And we're going to bring up this corner edge as well. Okay. So once we have that, we have this edge here. It will be like that. You can go parallel from this point here into this line. Now that's not going to be heavy at all. Oops, I even put that in a little bit heavier there for my liking. What is going to be heavy though is from here to here. And what I'm going to say to you as well is that there's possibility of a line you might be able to see the back edge of the roof, depending on what angle this is at. I'm not going to put that line in yet, just pay attention to it at the end and see if you'd actually see this point over the roof. Now what I can do is I can join this point here, up, join this point here, up, and the same on the back. Okay, so I have that much, it's starting to take shape. Next one is the roof, the apex of the roof. Bring that down. So let's go like this. Mark off either end of that where it starts and where it ends. Now, the line along the ridge will be seen. Okay. You'll have going from here to here and from here to here. Now, this is what I was saying earlier, you'll actually be able to see that back ridge there. So if I connect this point back to the edge, I can actually connect the top back to the back edge, like that. And I can draw in this edge along here as well. Okay. So we have all of that as well. Last but not least is going to be the circle in the middle here. It's probably going to be not the most marks, but there's going to be good marks at the end, and that's going to be to differentiate the A's and the B's. Okay, so they want you to draw the axonometric at the birdhouse, the last part. So this is generally going to have probably a good amount of marks for doing it in general, and then a smaller amount of marks, but just to give you your A or your B in the middle here with the circle. So we're going to go back to what I was saying earlier. We're going to bring all of those points in along the edge, along the ground, to where they hit that front face there. Bring in the center. And that last one. Now what you need to do is you need to go in, you need to make sure that you brought in all of your lines. So the 8 line or the 3 line has a line, that one has a line, that one has a line, and to go along. Even happened to me the last day. I missed this line over here. There's one of those that I missed. Now, to be able to follow them, what you should do is you should put some sort of a mark down here. Now, you can either number it or just mark it. So there's that line is important. That line is important. This line here, there's the center, should meet up the center point if you've done it right. And just do this in pencil just so that it's easy to see that the 6 lines you need. 6, 1, 2, 3, 7. 7 lines you need. Okay. Once you have that, then there's a few things you can do. You could either do it this way, where you bring up all of your points vertical. Might be a little bit of a tidier solution in this case. So bring up this edge line. Bring up, no, no. 1, 2, 3, yeah. Bring up this one. This. That point, center point's already gone up. Okay. So what you have is you have these lines here now that just might be a little bit easier to see more than anything else. Right, this is where the fun happens. What you're going to do then. So line 3 is going to go to the first line. Point 3 goes down, and you can mark that off there like that. Next one is going to be line 4. Bring point 4 down, mark it off on the 4 line. And to make sure you put your axonometric line going down from it. Point 2, going down again. Just make sure you mark it off. So what? That was this line. Made a mistake earlier. So easy you can make mistakes on this. Alright, so that point there is actually wrong. So when I come down with my 5 point, that lines up grand. Come down my 1 point. Mark that off on the line. No, yeah. Come down my 12 point. Just mark that off in the top. And you need to make sure you mark off the 6 as well. So 6. Base. The 7, bring that in, so that goes to the next line in. So does the 11. Okay. The 10 will fall on the same line here. Is that of good luck? And the 9. And the edge line there. And I've skipped 1, so I need to go back and just do the 8 down here. Bring that line in. See where it hits. Okay. So I don't know how well you can see there. And you've brought all of those in. Got a chance to focus. You'll have all of your marks off here like that. Okay, you can see the millions of lines. This is where having all of your lines arrowed just makes them possibly a little bit easier to read. Once you have that done then, freehand in. Now, remember this is a circle. So there should be no corners on it when you're doing your sketching. Okay. A little bit out of whack down here, but other than that, that'll be a fairly solid answer. Okay, so that's what it should look like. You'd be getting, this would be a place where you could possibly gain or lose marks, understanding that there's actually a back edge there, and your center sphere or circle here.